As per plan, start a simple Spring Boot application. So we can use Spring Initializer. So this is a Spring Initializer where we have to define language as Java, and I'm using Maven, and as a dependency tool I'm using version 3.x as a Spring Boot version. Provide group name, that is the package structure, com.tutor dot I will give pack, and this is first demo app, first demo app. So let it be pack as my base package. So I'm generating jar, not var, jar I'm generating, and I'm using JDK version 17. So I'm using dependency which is of type Spring Web to initiate the first Spring Boot project. So let's generate, which will generate Spring Boot project. Let's unzip it, and use any ID. I'm using Eclipse. I can import project, existing Maven project. I'll go to download folder, and click on finish. So it will import Spring Boot application into Eclipse ID. It will create the basic package structure inside the package in which we have given, and inside that it will create two files basically. One is first demo application, that is the starting point of our application, and application dot properties, where we can define the Spring Boot application properties. This first demo application, which contains annotation called Spring Boot application, that is a combination of configuration and component scan and enable auto configuration annotation. Enable auto configuration tells Spring Boot, look at the jars or dependencies I have and set up the app automatically. If we have Spring Boot Starter Web, it sets up Tomcat plus Dispatcher Servlet automatically. If we have Spring Boot Starter Data JPA, it sets up Hibernate plus Entity Manager automatically. In one line, enable auto configuration makes Spring Boot smart enough to configure beans based on what's already on the class path. So we don't have to do it manually. The first Spring Boot demo application, so by default it runs at port 8080. If you run the application, this is the first demo application which runs at port 8080. You can see the server is running at port 8080. One can update the port using application.properties, provide a property called as server.port equal to 9090. Stop the server, and if you run this application once again, it will run so at port number 9090. Create a controller. So this is my first controller. Let me call it as hello controller. So inside package called as controller in my default package structure. So this is my controller class. So I have to use annotation called as REST controller import package, and inside I have to provide an REST endpoint. So let me take a method called as hello, so which will return a string welcome first app, or let me call it demo app. So I will provide an endpoint at the rate request mapping slash hello. Start the server. Our Spring Boot application runs at port number 9090. So let me call that REST endpoint. So this is my first REST endpoint response, that is welcome first demo app. REST controller annotation is combination of controller and response body annotations. Controller annotation is the entry point for REST endpoints. Without a response body, it expects a return view, that is HTML or JSP. With REST controller, everything is written directly JSON as a response. The service annotation is used for business logic where we can do calculations and transaction handling. Repository annotation is used for data access layer or DAO layer. These annotations are of type component annotation only. That makes a class as Spring Managed Bean. It's just a naming conventions to segregate the layers of API.